the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach in John 5:39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. You will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. If another come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that comes from Elohim only? Do not think that I will accuse you to Abba. There is one that accused you, even Moses, in whom ye trust. For had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? Matthew chapter 5. We're just continuing from yesterday.
Bottom right.
5 and 1. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Baruch are the poor in Ruach, but theirs is the kingdom of shamayim. So let's take ourselves over to 1 Samuel chapter 2. What did we look at yesterday? We looked at Job chapter 5, and there's one other place that escapes my mind. But we're just dealing with the fact of that those who are afflicted and lowly in spirit are the ones who will inherit the kingdom. Period. That's what's going to happen. This is what the purpose of what he took them through in the wilderness for, was to humble their spirit. Before we even look at 1 Samuel 2, I mentioned it last night. We'll read it. Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 1. I'm short on time, so I'm going to move swiftly. All the commandments which I command thee this day shall you observe to do, that ye may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land which Yahuwah sware unto your fathers. And thou shalt remember all the way which Yahuwah the Elohim led thee these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee and to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou would keep his commandments or no. And he humbled thee and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna which thou knew not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee to know that man doth not live by bread only, but by every word that proceed out the mouth of Yahuwah doth man live. Now, matter of fact, since you've been mentioning this all afternoon, go to 1 Kings chapter 22. I think it's 1 Kings 22. It's 1 Kings 22. So he said he fed him with that to humble him, right? So check it. 1 Kings chapter 22, about verse 24. 1 Kings 22 and 24. He said, But Zechariah the son of Canaan went near and smote Micaiah on the cheek, and said, Which way went the Ruach of Yahuwah from me to speak unto thee? And Micaiah said, Behold, thou shalt see in that day, when thou shalt go into the inner chamber to hide thyself. And the Malach of Yasharal said, Take Micaiah and carry him back unto Amnon the governor of the city, and to Joash the king's son, and say, Thus saith the king, Put this fellow in prison, and feed him with the bread of affliction and with water of affliction, till I come in shalom. Now, the unleavened bread, at times, is referred to as a bread of affliction. Mentioned that he told them that he caused them to hunger so they could humble themselves, so he could know what was in their heart. That's the purpose of being made lowly and weak, as I mentioned to you, and now we're going to continue to look at it in a certain extent. This is how he finds out what's in your heart. So you get broken down and put in a lower state, this is when he's going to see if you really going to follow him or not. See, it's easy to follow him when everything is good, when everything is smooth, when everything is easy. It's very, very easy to do that. Matter of fact, Romans chapter 8, verse 34. Make that verse 35. Who shall separate us from the love of Hamashiach? Shall tribulation, or distress, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or peril, or sword, as it is written, For thy sake we are killed all the day long. We are counted as sheep for the slaughter. Nay, In all things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor malachim, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature should be able to separate us from the love of Elohim, which is in Yahushua HaMashiach, our Master. When we look at the instance of what we just referenced in Deuteronomy chapter 8, they had tribulation in the wilderness. Can anybody think of any tribulation they had in the wilderness? Say what? The scorpions? What scorpions? Them scorpions wasn't tribulation. Them scorpions was punishment and penance for the disobedience. That would be more so persecution. Tribulation. Some manner of trouble. Them being hungry can be seen as a born of tribulation. Your Amalekite example falls under the persecution, along with the king of Moab and him sending Balaam. Remember all that stuff they went through in the wilderness, and they fought the Amalekites twice. They had an issue with them twice. The first time them coming up the backside and trying to kill everybody, and then the actual battle when Moses was sitting on the rock and they were holding his hands up. We could sit back. Matter of fact, we could take the instance of them being hungry as being famine. They had a little peril, a little distress. Tribulation, just a little trouble. Just a little trouble. Just a little trouble. A little tribulation or trouble be considered when they saw the giants, and they said we wouldn't be able to take over the land because the giants weren't persecuting them or causing them any distress. But the reason why I point this out is all those things that they experienced in the wilderness was to see if they were going to obey or not. And as we read in Hebrews chapter 3, they did not obey. Well, those whose carcasses fell in the wilderness, they fell because they did not obey. They did not believe. 1 Samuel chapter 2. First Samuel 2 and chapter 2, pick it up at probably about I'll do verse 1. It ain't good.
Take it back to your room.
And Hannah prayed and said, my heart rejoices in Yahuwah, my horn is exalted in Yahuwah, my mouth is enlarged over my enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation. There is none Kadesh as Yahuwah, for there is none beside thee, neither is there any rock like our Elohim. Talk no more so exceeding proudly, and let not arrogancy come out of your mouth, for Yahuwah is an Elohim of knowledge, and by him are actions weighed. Now he told you that by him actions are weighed. So let's look at something real quick. When we look at actions, the word is al-li-ah. And it's referring to your deeds or your doings or your works. So that takes us back to when Mashiach make the statement that he will judge and reward everyone according to their works. Because he's going to weigh things according to the things that you do. We looked at this the other day in that Revelation 22 when he told you, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still. He that is Kadesh, let him be Kadesh still. See, he's not going to weigh you by any other means other than what you do. Because he say he's an Elohim of knowledge. So if he's an Elohim of knowledge, that word is di'ah, and that's the knowledge of Elohim. That's the reason why Paul makes the statement where he say he hoped that you be filled all with spiritual knowledge. See, Paul's 1 Corinthians 15 and 33. So he's an Elohim of knowledge. So what does this tell you? That you should possess the knowledge of Elohim. If you don't possess the knowledge of Elohim, then actually you are a fool. And again, like I mentioned last night, it's not possessing it with the fact of to be able to recite it or repeat it. First Corinthians 15 and 32. If after the manner of men I fought with beasts at Ephesians, what advantage it me? If the dead rise not, let us eat, drink, for tomorrow we die. Be not deceived, evil communications corrupt good manners. Awake to righteousness and sin not. For some of you have not, for some have not the knowledge of Elohim. I speak this to your shame. So the reason why I came to this spot was just for the last part of his statement. If you don't have the knowledge of Elohim, then we speak this to the point that you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Now when you look at having the knowledge of Elohim, you think it's just the fact of knowing, because he said he's an Elohim of knowledge, and by actions, or does he weigh things? So if you have the knowledge of Elohim, then you can be weighed with a just weight and a just balance, and he can weigh you out as being righteous. But if you don't have the knowledge of Elohim, then what's going to happen? You're going to do like your forefathers did in the wilderness, and you're going to face an adverse situation, and you're going to crumple and fold. They had the knowledge of Elohim when they were going through all of that, and they still folded. Why? That's the question. Back to 1 Samuel chapter 2. Ain't nowhere in the world you say you know Yahuwah and you fold. How does that happen? That shouldn't happen. Your knees might get a little wobbly. That's why he told you to strengthen the feeble knees, because sometimes your knees might get a little wobbly, but you ain't got no business buckling though. Dang, I hope somebody grabbed that wine out of the refrigerator.
We took it, but after going,
Nah, I was saying we'd have to buy another bottle. No.
you gotta drink all of it.
Go ahead and drink all of it, then you can buy your wife a bottle for the sake.
Eat all of it.
That's what your homeboy kept telling me. He said I didn't like to get a little bit of wine. When I be with my boy, I get my groove on. So I like to get my groove on. He said I didn't like to sip. This little sip, I get my groove on. 2 and 4. All I know is, boy, you drink you all of it. Stay away from me, boy. You ain't had no alcohol in you a long time. I don't know what you're liable to do. You might get like them old drunk, get butt naked, run out the front door. That's what my granddaddy used to do. Shoot, granddaddy was on potatoes, vodka. Straight up. And that nigga get drunk, take off all his clothes, and run out the front door. You know what I'm talking about? Shoot, you get drunk, you don't know what you might do. Shoot. God forbid any of us were born because somebody got drunk. Good, man. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 4. That nigga was on some potatoes. Potatoes. Vodka is potatoes. Hey, y'all ain't got no business in there playing anyway.
Come out of there. Come out of there.
This ain't playtime. All y'all come from up out of there and sit down and be quiet. And y'all know this ain't playtime anyway. This ain't your first rodeo.
Don't turn the light off, Mom. Shut the phone down. The kitchen is closed.
I don't care who don't like it. You can go to bed.
Night. Sit down on the next side.
Y'all know better than that. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 4. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and they that stumbled are girded with strength. They that were full have hired themselves for bread, and they that were hungry ceased, so that the barren have borne 7. She that had many children is waxed feeble. Yahuwah kill and make alive, and he bring down to the grave and bring up. Anybody remember what the word for alive is? Does anybody recall what word that is? That word is kaya, if you did not remember. It's the cot, the yod, and the hay. So when you look at that he's made you alive, that means it's the revelation that the right hand has separated you. What would be that revelation of the right hand separating you? Well, let's see what the revelation of the right hand was separating. Romans chapter 1. Remember, we dealing with him that's poor in spirit. We talked about last night. This is a continuation from last night. We talked about last night. He said the poor had help to be delivered, so iniquity would stop her mouth. He say, blessed are the poor in spirit. He say, learn of me. I am meek and lowly in heart. See, that's another example of why do we preach Yahushua HaMashiach? Why do we point to his death and his sufferings and all of that? Because he was of a poor spirit. This is why he was able to inherit. Why do you think he told that man on the stake, this day you will be with me in paradise? Because he showed himself to be of an afflicted and humble spirit. He told that other thief, we in the same condemnation. And this man ain't did nothing. And you running your mouth. See, if you don't understand that you're supposed to be learning this man to take on a lowly state and a humble state, you will not enter into this man's kingdom. It's guaranteed. That's why he told you had to be born again. That's why he told you got to be as a little child. You have to humble yourself. Children follow directions. What does the book say? You train a child up in the way that she should go, and he won't depart. Yahuwah told Yahusha exactly what to do, when to do it. He didn't play with him. He didn't cut no corners with him. He didn't try to be his friend. He didn't pat him on his head. Do what I told you to do. And as an obedient child, he did exactly that. Exactly he said, my father gave me a commandment, what I should say and what I should speak. I know his commandment is life everlasting. You're supposed to know if this is your father, this man is going to teach you exactly what is necessary for you to gain profit, and that is nothing that's going to hurt you. That man say his chastisement is so you could be a partaker of his kadoshness, and that you could bear fruit of everlasting life through him. This ain't nothing hard to take. That's why he said if you don't want to take the chastisement, you a bastard and not a son. Sons obey. Children obey. You know what I'm saying? That's why our law tells us, oh, our son, he won't listen to us. He's a drunkard and a glutton. He said, kill that nigga. Don't even play with him. Just kill him. Cause I'm tired of you talking to him. So you go ahead and kill him. Bastards don't listen. Bastard children don't listen. Where we were going at? I don't even remember. I ain't even get that. Say what? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Romans 1:1. Paul, a servant of Yahushua HaMashiach, called to be an apostle, separated unto the Basar of Elohim, which he had promised afore by his prophets in the Kadesh scriptures, concerning his son Yahushua HaMashiach, which was made of the seed of David according to the flesh, and declared to be the son of Elohim with power according to the Ruach HaKadosh by the resurrection from the dead. Remember, because he said he killed and he makes alive. So that means, remember, what did Yahushua tell Pilate?
You don't have power by the man.
Unless it was given. So who really killed Yahushua? Yahuwah killed him. Yahuwah killed him. But what did he say the wicked was in Psalm 17? He said the wicked are his sword. You think about Job when he say the children of the wicked are made for the sword. So he used men to execute what he wanted. But the key point is, Yahushua said in John chapter 10, I lay my own life down. No man take it from me. And I have power to pick it up. My Father has given me this commandment to lay it down and pick it up. That's humility. That's humbleness. That's lowliness. You got to understand something. How many of y'all...
He chose to die.
He chose to die. How many of y'all would be a king and come off your throne and die for people who rejected you? How many of y'all would go do that? How many of you would make yourself lower than what you were to be disrespected by the people whom you created so they can have life? That's humility. That's why the kingdom was his. You have to take on that same type of mind frame that he possessed. This is why people don't receive the Ruach. This is why he say he resists the proud and give calm or grace to the humble.
He came off the throne.
He came off. You got to understand that he came off the throne. Let's look at how he came off the throne. We're going to come right back though. Well, I read what I wanted to read. Isaiah 57 and 15. After Isaiah 57 and 15, Hebrews 1. 57 and 15. For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabit eternity, whose name is Kadash, I dwell in the high and Kadesh place, with him also that is of a contrite and humble Ruach, to revive the Ruach of the humble, and to revive the heart of the contrite ones. Now let's see what the word for revive is. Notice who he say. He said he dwelled in the high and lofty place with a man who has a humble Ruach. That's what he said. So who's dwelling with him? He say with him. I dwell with him. That's singular. That's not multiple people. Nobody can't fit in that and say that's Malakim in there. He say he dwell with him. Hold on. Now the word is all in one, and it's daka. And it says that it means dust or contrite, or also meaning destruction. So he said he dwelt with dust or one who's contrite. So if we got daka as D-A-K-K-A, how would we spell it? Clearly Daleth is the first one. What would we use for the next two? No, A-A. It's D-A-K-K-A. What you say, Will? I agree. So if we got ayin, we got experience or the C, correct? And if you got the kaf, what you got? You either have the work or the deeds, because to be contrite, to enter into the door or the entrance. See, I called for Ezekiel 44 last night and we didn't read it, did we? But we're finna read it in just a moment. I just want y'all to keep that in mind. That's what he say, what it mean when he say him that is contrite. It's going to be the person who experiences the work that gets to enter into the house. What is that work of that contrite individual? Because we could have put palm in the hand to substitute it. It's that sacrifice.
Yeah, I was thinking that. So that sacrifice, humbleness, doing that willingly.
Doing that willingly. When we look at revive,
He said experience.
when you look at it's kaya again, to have life. So he's coming to revive or to give life to humble individuals. Before we go any further, I need to get Psalms chapter 25. I need about verse 10. Because right, he said he's an Elohim of knowledge, right? Do you not need the knowledge of Elohim to enter into his kingdom? I would concur. Listen what he tell you. Make that verse 8. That's my bad. I was a tad bit too low. Psalm 25 and 8. It says, good and upright is Yahuwah, therefore he will teach sinners in the way. The meek will he guide in judgment, and the meek will he teach his way. Now let's look at that. Oh, the wrong song. That's why I didn't have that on deck. Let's see what we get, which word we have for judgment. So we have judgment, we have mishpat, and remember what that is, right? That's to destroy the words of chaos. So he's going to teach the humble what is needed to destroy sin. Then the meek, the word is a nav. It's someone who is a poor, afflicted, and weak, and lowly. So it's a nav. It's A-N-A-V and 3 characters. What characters would we use? You guess we got the noon. The U at the end. So what would be the first character that we would use? The ayin. So again, if we got the ayin, what are we going to look and say we doing with that? Are we seeing or are we experiencing? We're experiencing. And what are you experiencing? The sacrifice of life. Because that's the same thing that Deuteronomy 8 was showing you, because the Egyptian firstborn was a sacrifice so Yasharal would live. They experienced it. They saw it. The sacrifice of the firstborn is how we came out, right? So they experienced the sacrifice for life so that they could live and no longer be oppressed. Because they had been humble. We should be a humble people right now here in America, yet we not, as much as we've been oppressed and beaten. But that's because you don't understand the reason why you're being oppressed. So it will be hard for you to get a humble frame of mind from it, because what's usually going to happen is rage. And not rage at Yahuwah, but rage at your oppressor and being perplexed at why God, who you've been told about your whole life, allows these people to kill you and oppress you. You know what I'm saying? So then you don't understand why. And then because he hasn't interceded on your behalf, then you feel like, why should I serve and call on someone who has not raised his hand to help? You know what I'm saying? So then you just don't want nothing to do with it. Of course, when you're dealing with the mixing of Europeans running their mouth and distorting and defiling the word itself. Nevertheless, verse 10. Then y'all should know his way. He say he'll also teach those who have experienced the sacrifice of life the way to get to the highest for their sins to be covered. This is how you're going to get in the kingdom. Again, continuing on. All the paths of Yahuwah are mercy and truth under such as keep his covenant and his testimonies. For thy name's sake, O Yahuwah, pardon my iniquity, for it is great. What man is he that fear Yahuwah? Him shall he teach in the way that he shall choose. His soul shall dwell at ease, and his seed shall inherit the earth. The secret of Yahuwah is with them that fear him, and he will show them his covenant. So the secret of Yahuwah, which is Yahusha, is only revealed to those who respect him. If you don't respect Yahuwah, he's not going to reveal his secret, and he will not show you his covenant, which is the Ruach HaKadosh and everlasting life, which is, remember, what was attached to the first covenant? What was attached to the first covenant, Will? What was a part of it? The land. So would it be safe to say that the kingdom is a part of the new covenant? So if you don't fear, believe, and obey Yahuwah, you're not going to get a part of the land. You're not going to inherit it. You're not going to inherit the kingdom. And who are the only people who inherited the kingdom in the law? Those who were lowly and humble. That was it. And what was the age of all the people who got in beside Joshua and Caleb? 20 and under. Which takes us back to you got to humble yourself as a little child to get in here. No grown people got in except for 2. Everybody over 20 died. Because they couldn't humble themselves. That's one of the reasons why I told you, I ain't got no time talking about go wake up nobody in no Christian church. These old grown niggas ain't trying to hear nothing. You know what I'm saying? They ain't trying to hear nothing. You got to go talk to the youth. They're the ones that going to listen. Does that mean that it's going to be anybody who's older in the church that's not going to listen? Of course it's going to be somebody who's going to listen. But most of the time, that's what I was telling them earlier. When you look at children, you got to set it in them early. That's why he say train up a child in the way that they should go and they won't depart. You got to put it in them early. Because if you try to put it in when they get older, they're not going to listen. They're not going to listen because they set in their ways. And they feel like their way going to work. You know what I'm saying? You got whatever direction you want a child to go, which is why the law repeatedly told the adults to teach this to your children. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to put this software in their operating system now. Don't wait till this nigga 15 to tell him. Don't wait till he's 22 to because he's not gonna listen. Because he's gonna develop ways and habits over that course of time that he feel like work well for him. Now you trying to come with something different than what he been doing, and he gonna reject it. That's why a lot of people reject the word. It ain't got necessarily nothing other to do than this. What I always been doing. I've been doing fine doing this. What some people say, Grandma been eating pork all her life. She's still alive. You know what I'm saying? Because you know the old euphemism. You know you can't teach a dog new trick, old dog new tricks, and all that stuff. But people really just get stuck in their ways. You know what I'm saying? People get stuck in their ways. Can we talk about it? You see all these little children mine in here? It's a piece of clay. It's a piece of dough that can be molded and fashioned in whatever way you want to fashion it in. You have the power to fashion their mind in any way you want to fashion. That's a large responsibility and a heavy power. That's no different than somebody who preached the word. They have the ability to take babes in the word and fashion their minds whatever way they want to fashion it. And Yahuwah understood this when he made man. That's why he said, hey, I made man upright. I gave you a right mind. You chose to do what you wanted to do. Because I taught you what to do. I showed you what to do. You just chose to do opposite. But see, we came here so you can see what he does for those who are humble. And everything come back to experiencing that sacrifice, which is going to humble you. Let's go ahead and get this Hebrews 1:1, and then we'll read Philippians 2, because it just has to be read, dealing with the subject matter. Hebrews 1:1. Elohim, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in times past unto the fathers by the prophets, having these last days spoken to us by his Son, whom he have appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds, who being the brightness of his esteem and express image of his person, upholding all things by the word of his power, when he had by himself purged our sins, and sat down on the right hand of the majesty on high.
Come here.
Well, you go ahead and put that toy up though. You go ahead and leave that alone. You can leave that alone. This is not playtime. You can leave that alone. Let it right where you left it at. I appreciate it. Now the reason why I read that, because y'all should know in Hebrews chapter 2 where he made the statement of that it behooved Mashiach that he be made like unto his brethren. Because we were talking about the point of this man coming off his throne. In the 6th chapter of John, in the 62nd verse, he said, what and if you shall see the Son of Man ascend to where he was before? He said, no man have seen the Father but him who was in the bosom of the Father. So you have to understand something, that this man made himself of a lower estate. Because remember, he said he dwells with him who has a contrite and a meek Ruach. This is who he dwells with, so that he can give people life. So he can revive the humble people. Remember, we read last night, the remnant of Yasharal will be poor and afflicted, and they will trust in the name of Yahuwah. And they won't tell lies, and they won't commit iniquity, and there won't be a deceitful tongue in their mouth. Because who is an author of deceit? So ain't no wicked people gonna be here. But the key thing is, he said those who were humble would be part of the remnant, or the elect, that he would gather and bring into. Matter of fact, let me finish that, Zephaniah chapter 3. Let me finish that. And then Ezekiel 44. We come back to Philippians 2 in a moment. We're going to pick it up in about verse 13. Well, we'll read verse 12 again. I need to crank it up a lot harder and a lot faster. I also will leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people. They shall trust in the name of Yahuwah. The remnant of Yasharal shall not do iniquity, nor speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth, for they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid. Sing, O daughter of Zion, and shout, O Yasharal, be glad and rejoice with all thy heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. Yahuwah have taken away thy judgments, and he have cast out thy enemy. Who is the enemy whom he's cast out? Death. Sin has been cast out, because he told you to sing and rejoice, O Jerusalem. What did they do when they seen Yahushua was alive? They sang and rejoiced, because the enemy has been cast out, because this man humbled himself. In that day it shall be said, Jerusalem, fear thou not, and the Zion, let not thy hands be slack. Yahuwah thy Elohim in the midst of thee is mighty, he will save, he will rejoice over thee with joy, he will rest in his love, he will joy over thee with singing. I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. What solemn assembly is he talking about? Because he said he will gather you for the solemn assembly. Is there? Now, if we look in the law, will we see if there's a solemn assembly for tabernacles? Does anybody know if the law says there's a solemn assembly in tabernacle? I'm asking this to see if you know or not. Not saying that you're wrong. But he said a solemn assembly, which is a different type of assembly. Let's look and see. Let's look at Leviticus 23. We want about verse 37, verse 39. And in the 15th day of the 7th month, when you gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep a feast unto Yahuwah 7 days. On the first day shall be a Shabbat, and on the 8th day shall be a Shabbat. I gotta find it.
I don't see what it says.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Not this time.
Oh, it's verse 36. I jumped over it. I definitely jumped over that. My apologies. Verse 35. On the first day shall be a Kadesh convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. 7 days shall you offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. And on the 8th day shall be a Kadesh convocation unto Yahuwah. You shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. It is a solemn assembly, and you shall do no servile work therein. When we got solemn assembly, that word is a tasara, and it's assembly, company, or a group, but make a sacred or festive meeting. Now, can we look at it for Passover and see if we see any solemn assembly for that? That's why it's good for us to know the law, because when we know the law and we see certain things, we know exactly what he's talking about and why he's saying it. There ain't no solemn assembly for Passover. You see that, right? It's not there. Is there a solemn assembly for Pentecost? No, it's not. But there is a solemn assembly for atonement. And that's stated in Zechariah, if my memory serves me correctly. You notice on Leviticus 23, the only place that say a solemn assembly is for tabernacles. So you know, so now this is the reason why we pointed that out, because now you know exactly, because he said gather too. See, I asked that to see if you could know, if you knew that off the law. But the context clues, even if you didn't know it from the law, you should have known gather, assembly. That's got to be tabernacles. So you see that we know for surety, according to the text, when he's coming to get us. And what does the book say about tabernacles? That last, what do he call it? No, I'm talking about what does he call it? Let's look and see what he called it. John 7:37. We come right back to Zephaniah chapter 3.
Is it John?
Yes, sir. 7:37. They say in that last day, that great day of the feast, Yahushua stood and cried, saying, if any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. He that believe on me, as the scripture has said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. So if he looking at it, he say he gonna gather you for the solemn assembly on the last day, that great day of the feast. Then what would you be doing on this day? What feast is it? It would be the marriage supper of the Lamb. Come on back to Zephaniah chapter 3. And who the only people going to be at that table? But the humble and the afflicted. Because those are the ones who trust in Yahuwah.
Did I take it in Revelation when he said that day is here, the Lamb, New Jerusalem coming down?
Yeah, but it don't state that we feast with New Jerusalem coming down. With New Jerusalem coming down?
Now I'm saying, will that happen during tabernacle?
Oh no, we've already been dwelling in the land for 1,000 years before that happened.
That's just him gathering. Back. When he come back, then he come back together and separate, right?
This is when Yahushua come back and bring us in the land.
Right.
When New Jerusalem come down, this one Abba himself come to dwell with man.
Yeah, I'm saying we don't know the season for that.
I just tell you after 1,000 years is completed.
Yeah.
I was just saying I know the feast day.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
No, there ain't no season with that. Once the earth has been cleansed and the people have been refined and Gog and Magog is released.
I asked because Ezekiel, he said 7 months we got to clean the land, then Yahuwah comes. So after 7 months we know that line up the tabernacle.
But it ain't even necessarily going to be, that's after Gog and Magog is allowed to run rampant with the 7 months. It doesn't let you know what time period that Gog and Magog is set to run rampant. Because we already in the land.
Okay, so we don't know. Okay.
We already in the land. When Gog and Magog is set, remember he said you come to make war with those who dwell in unwalled villages. We already in the land, chilling. And then he come and do what it is that he do. No, I understand completely. It wasn't. No, it's not a asinine question in the least bit. It's very relevant, and you trying to catch it to line up with something like that. But really, There's no time frame on that. We already in the land. No, the day and the hour is Yahushua returning. But Yahuwah coming on the earth, you know, once the 1,000 years are finished and Gog and Magog is destroyed and Satan is put into the lake of fire, then our Yahuwah come.
Yeah, because he can't be around.
He can't be no uncleanness and destroy the whole earth. Zephaniah 3, verse 18. I'll read it again though. I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, or who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. Behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee, and I will save her that halt, and gather her that was driven out, and I will give them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. At that time will I bring again, even in that time that I gather you, I will make you a name and a praise among all the people of the earth, when I turn back your captivity before your eyes, saith Yahuwah. This man say he gonna get you, so that means in every place we've been disrespected and oppressed, he gonna get you a name and praise to go along with that. That's why you ain't have to be worried about, that's why you don't need to be around here worrying about trying to make a name for yourself. This man already done made a name for you in heaven. Ain't no need for you to do all of that. Come on back to 1 Samuel chapter 2. No, Ezekiel 44, my bad. 44 and 5. Well, you need to go get in the bed. All that you got going on. Make that 44 and 3. He said, it is for the prince. The prince shall sit in it to eat bread before Yahuwah. He shall enter by the way of the porch of that gate, and shall go out by the way of the same. Then brought he me the way of the north gate before the house, and I looked, and behold, the esteem of Yahuwah filled the house of Yahuwah, and I fell upon my face. And Yahuwah said unto me, Son of man, mark well, and behold with thine ears, and hear with thy ears all that I say unto thee concerning the ordinances of the house of Yahuwah, all the Torah thereof, and mark well the entering in of the house, which every going forth of the sanctuary. And thou shalt say to the rebellious, even to the house of Yasharal, thus saith Yahuwah, O ye house of Yasharal, let it suffice you all your abominations. In that you have brought into my sanctuary strangers, uncircumcised in heart, uncircumcised in flesh, to be in my sanctuary, to pollute it, even my house, when you offer my bread, the fat, and the blood, and they have broken my covenant because of all your abominations. You have not kept charge of my Kadesh things, but you have set keepers of my charge of my sanctuary for yourselves. What do you think that means when he sit back and he say, you set keepers of the gate for yourself?
Yeah.
What do you think he's imparting on us? Because all we just came up for was to read that there's ordinances and statutes. But then he also said you had to be circumcised in heart and flesh. If you're circumcised in heart, that means you would have humbled yourself. But what you think he mean when he said that you got keepers of the charge, keepers of my charge and my sanctuary for yourselves? Ye have set keepers of your charge of the sanctuary for yourself. Setting up your own people to guard what he set up to be guarded. You got people in here, I didn't tell these niggas to come around here and keep these gates. You know what I'm saying? And what that takes us to is what we mentioned a while back in Lamentations chapter 2. These men are not finding out your reasons for banishment. Therefore your captivity cannot be removed. Or like he said, you strengthen men in evil to where no man returns. And you tell him that do evil that no penalty, no wrath will come upon his head. So therefore they cannot become poor in spirit, and therefore they can't enter the kingdom. Which is why Mashiach said the scribes and the Pharisees are not entering into the kingdom of shamayim, and they're not trying to allow others to enter in. Because you set these people up to keep in charge of my set apart things, and I didn't set them there. That's why he always say, and I sent them not. They prophesied, but I didn't speak. And they ran, and I didn't send them. And also that's an example of what Micaiah did in the book of Judges, setting up his own priests, or the same thing that Ahab did, or the rest of them did, setting up their own priests to keep the charge of the set apart things of Yahuwah. Therefore this allows people who are uncircumcised in heart and flesh to enter into his sanctuary and defile it. Nevertheless, Philippians chapter 2. 2 and 6. This also takes us back to that Romans 5 when he said that, well, I'm going to read it, so it don't matter. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 6, or verse 5. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Yahushua HaMashiach, who being in the form of Elohim, thought it not robbery to be equal with Elohim, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant. It was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the stake. Now Paul goes on later after that and said what? That he got a name and he was highly exalted. This is why Peter tells you, humble yourself under the mighty hand of Elohim, and he will lift you up in due time. See, niggas don't believe that. That's why they chase for a name and they chase for fame. This is why, like what Gamaliel said, there's plenty of people who done rose up and made themselves out to be something, and Yahuwah destroyed them all and scattered everyone who followed them, because these men were seeking to be famous or to be known. The Mashiach said plainly in the 20th chapter of Matthew that he didn't come to be served, but he came to serve and to make his life a ransom for many. He also stated when he washed his disciples' feet, he said, if you do this, if I, your Lord and Master, wash your feet, you ought to wash one another's feet as an example. I'm your king, I'm your savior, I'm your maker, I'm your Elohim. I'm finna get ready to die for you niggas, and I'm gonna wash your feet. He say, blessed are you if you do these things, if you remember to do this. Why? Because I'm lowly and meek in heart, and learn of me. See, he taught them something, that if they serve one another, that is the example of a lowly and meek spirit. Therefore, if you possess that, you can enter into the kingdom. If you do not possess that, you will burn in hell. I don't care how much information you know. That junk don't mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? That junk does not mean nothing. Moses, you know Moses, not just because he led the people out of Egypt, not just because he taught the people the law. He said he was the meekest man on the face of the earth. That's why you know who Moses is. You know why you know David? Because he was a man after Elohim's own heart, which means he was a humble man. That's why he got the kingdom to take Saul's place. Can anybody think of any examples of humility that David exhibited? He could have killed Saul. He said, I will not lay my hand on Yahuwah's anointed. That's humility. Do you have another? Yeah, when the boy came bringing that, he talking about, oh, you thought I was going to get happy because you told me Saul was dead? And he killed him. But that was because he had an evil spirit for him. That was to get the spirit off. I was saying, he listened to when he was ready to kill Nabal, and she told him, don't do that. He said, praise Yah. You stopped me from avenging myself with my own hand. That's humility. You want to see another example of humility? When he came through to try to get that, to make that sacrifice, and he told that dude, I will not take it for free. I'll pay you for it. Or what about when he went back to recover all his wives, and the people said, man, these boys ain't do nothing. They stayed back with the stuff. He said, the same one go to war, get the same thing as somebody who stayed back with the stuff. You know what I'm saying? This is what you supposed. See, we don't be looking at this stuff. See, we look at the information, but then we don't look at the attribute of behavior that's being exhibited in the information that you're supposed to take on. That's the knowledge of Elohim. You know who Yahushua is for one reason and one reason alone, because he was the meekest man to ever live. And what did he say he'll do? He'll show his covenant to the meek. He show his secret to the meek. You wondering why nigga been in the word 10, 15 years, don't know nothing. Because you not humble, so he ain't showing you nothing. Where we got? Romans 5, man. 5 and 2. He say, by whom? Well, 5 and 1. Therefore, being justified by faith, we have shalom with Elohim through our Master Yahushua HaMashiach, by whom also we have access by faith into his Khan, wherein we stand and rejoice in the hope of the esteem of Elohim. And not only so, but we esteem in tribulations, knowing that tribulation work patience. Because that patience is what? To endure. So the tribulation is teaching you humility. Because the humility is going to cause you to endure what you're going through. See, we talked about this recently. And experience hope. So now you get to experience the mercy, the long suffering, and the power of Elohim. And we talked about hope last night. So now you got trust in Elohim, because without hope it's impossible to please him. Because you must believe that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And hope make not ashamed. Because the love of Elohim is shed abroad in our hearts by the Ruach HaKadosh, which is given unto us. Hope don't make you ashamed. 1 Samuel chapter 2. And all we were dealing with that was is how he kills and he makes alive. That right hand is able to separate you unto life. Will cause you to experience the separation of life. Or the separation of the right hand, I should say, because life is in the right hand. Verse 7. Yahuwah make poor and make rich. He bring low and he lift up. Yahuwah raise up the poor out of the dust and lift up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes and to make them inherit the throne of esteem. For the pillars of the earth are Yahuwah's, and he has set the world upon them. So the word for poor in this particular verse, let me get the word for poor here. When he say he raised up the poor out of the dust, that is the word dal that we mentioned last night. It's one who's low, weak, or thin. So that's the teaching that causes you to enter into the interest. Or the shepherd's staff gets you in the interest, because the shepherd's staff is directing you. And you have to humble yourself under his direction. Which we already talked about, how Yahushua said his father gave him a commandment, what he should do and what he should say. And he knew that in that teaching there was life. Because remember, he said he lifts up out the dust. But the pillars. Any of y'all in here familiar with pillars? You familiar with pillars? The pillars in the temple of our house of Yahuwah. You familiar with the temple? No, it ain't 12 pillars. Yeah, he know what it is. You know the name of those?
I think I do.
Do you know the name of the other pillars? He mentioned Boaz. Shayla, you know the name of the other pillar? No, you think about the 12 pillars he told Moses. You think about the 12 pillars he told Moses to make in the wilderness. No, that's why I said the temple of Yahuwah. Pillars in it.
It's a pillar in the temple of Yahuwah.
It's two pillars. They got names. First King is Boaz. First King chapter 2 verse 5.
I think I know.
If you hear it, you don't know.
Little Boaz.
Yeah, he got Boaz. First King chapter 2. First Kings 2 and 15. That nigga right there, man. This nigga right here. This nigga right here. For he cast two pillars of brass of 18 cubits high apiece. A line of 12 cubits did compass either of them about, and he made 2 chapters of molten brass. Let me see what these chapters is. I meant to look that up earlier. 2 and 15. Oh, my bad. I meant chapter 7. My bad. 7 and 15. My bad. Okay, chapters is a capital crown or a capital of a pillar. So when you see chapter is referring to the crown of the pillar. What we finna look at with these 2 pillars, I meant to do this about a year and a half ago, and I never got to it. And he made 2 chapters of molten brass to set upon the tops of the pillars. The height of one chapter was 5 cubits, and the height of the other chapter was 5 cubits. And the nets of the checker work and the wreaths of the chain work for the chapters were upon the top of the pillars, 7 for one chapter and 7 for the other chapter. Let me see what this is with wreaths real quick. That is a twisted thread or a tassel or a fringe. When it speaks of wreaths, it's talking about fringes on it. And he made pillars, 2 round about upon the one, to network to cover the chapters that were upon the top with pomegranates. And so he did for the other chapter. And the chapters that were on top of the pillars were of lily work, in the porch 4 cubits. And the chapters upon the 2 pillars had pomegranates also above, over against the belly, which was by the network. And the pomegranates were 200 in rows round about upon the other chapter. And he set up the pillars in the porch of the temple, and he set up the right pillar and called the name of it Jachin. And he set up the left pillar and called the name thereof Boaz. So Jachin, I already know what it means. It means he will establish.
And Boaz
Means fleetness.
same as
That's the same exact name.
his name.
Fleetness, quickness.
Wait.
Yakin means to, like I just told you, he will establish. We have 3 characters for that name. It's spelled Y-A-K-I-Y-N. And what characters will we use?
God.
The yod is very easy. What will we use in the middle? Well, actually, it's 4 characters. My apologies. It's 4 characters.
Yeah.
I-Y-N?
It's Y-A-K-I-Y-N. You're going to have a yard in the noon, but what you going to have in the middle? Okay, you still need another one.
Y-A.
There's 4 characters in this word.
That's it, Kyle. Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. I know wood. Ain't it?
Yeah.
You got 2 yards here. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I said 2 yards.
Yeah, I didn't hear him say 2 yards. That's why.
Yeah, that's for the eye.
Yeah, I didn't hear him say 2 yards. That's why.
Yard, cut, yard.
So if you got yard, cot, yard, noon, what will we have?
What is it?
Let me say yakun. If we gonna say, will we say right hand? Will we say work? Will we say actions?
It means to be established.
His name means, it means he will establish.
That's work.
That work then.
That work is something.
So the work separates you to life.
You got another yard.
Yeah, the right hand, the work of the right hand separates you to life. I mean, you could use it if you want to. You ain't have to use it. You could have doubled up on the first yard with that one. So when we look at Boaz, what we gonna do with that? That's 4 characters too, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a rule in that. We got that whole. Yes. I say bet or.
No, it's 3. It looks like that's 3 characters for Boaz. His name means fleetness.
Oh, bet or dying.
So what would we say with that? With the bat or the zayin?
Zayin is to the harvest, cut.
I pull them up.
Flower tool.
Hold on, I pull them up.
And that means speed.
Yeah, speed. Like methamphetamines. We got plowing tool, harvest, food, to dig, to be fruitful, to cut off, a weapon, and to nourish.
So in this situation, they building the house.
Now you already built the house. These are 2 pillars in the porch.
I'm thinking
so they built that.
I'm thinking swiftness. He coming, he gonna cut those off and not establish get in the house. Pretty quick. I go quick, that's what he said.
Yeah, I'll take the fact because this in the temple and this ain't necessarily cutting people off. That I'm going to sit back and I'm going to take fruitful, and I'm going to take how the fruitful is secured.
Secured in the house.
or to fruitful, or basically securing those that are in the Son to be fruitful. Just considering the fact of what he sent him to do. Why I say that? John chapter 15. That's why I said that. The reason why I'm talking about, because he said he'll lift the poor out of the dust. And he said, because the reason why I said that, he said he set the world on these pillars. In 1 Samuel chapter 2. Let me reread that again. That's why I chose that. Because what even came to pillars in the first place, and then we gonna wind it down. I still ain't got to the other place I gotta get. I do it tomorrow. And you got to go. I forgot we gotta do Saturday night too. You got that. I'm not preaching Saturday night. I refuse. I would already went that afternoon. He say, for the pillars of the earth are Yahuwah's, and he has set the world on them. So remember, right, the pillar, so one pillar means he will establish quickly. So that's what the two pillars mean when you put them together. He will establish quickly. So then when we take the one with the Yakin, and what we had the Yod, the Kot, the Yod, and the Nun. So the right hand separate, the work of the right hand separates to life. So that's where you get the establishing in that. The right hand does the work to separate the life. Let's look at that. John chapter 1 and verse 10. Because he said he set the world on these pillars. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. And he came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of Elohim, even to them that believe on his name, which were not born, not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor the will of man, but of Elohim. And the word was made flesh, and dwelt among us. And we beheld his esteem. The esteem is the only begotten of Abba, full of Khan and Amat. So when we look at how did he establish quickly, if the right hand, the work of the right hand separated the life, how did he establish that quickly? We talked about it, we mentioned it last night too. Well, not last night, last Saturday. When we were talking about that lady who had that leavened bread. And I ain't even touched that part with the leavened bread like I wanted to.
How did he do it?
How did he do it quickly? How many days was he in the grave?
Oh, 3 days.
That's very quickly for him to establish. Because remember, the two pillars mean together, he will establish quickly. Fleetness just means quick. That's why the master kept, as you mentioned before, he kept mentioning, I come quickly. I come quickly. Because the pillars, the world is set on the pillars. He said, I came to save the world, not to condemn the world. So he's coming to do this quickly. And it's quick in his time, not in our time. But then the other name means what? Boaz is telling us what? You got the Bat, the U, and the Zayin, and we turn around and see that it's made fruitful. Well, you have the B in the sun is going to manifest a fruitful securing. Or you're going to secure the fruit in the house of the sun. Either way how you look at it. And let's see why I said that. Revelation chapter 3. Because we finna wind this down. I got one more chapter to hit on this on tomorrow. Revelation 3 and 11. Behold, I come quickly. Hold fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Remember what I told you them chapters was? They were crowns for the pillar. Yahusha is that pillar, and he was crowned. If you in him, look what he finna tell you. Look what he finna tell you. Him that overcome will I make a pillar in the temple of my Elohim. He shall go no more out, and I will write upon him the name of my Elohim, and the name of the city of my Elohim, which is New Jerusalem, which come down out of shamayim from my Elohim, and I will write upon him my new name. Now think about that. Not only did he tell you, the first thing that he told you if you overcame is that he would make you a pillar. Now we didn't look at the word pillar. We just looked at the two pillars that are named in the temple of his Elohim that Solomon named. And the two pillars are Yakin and Boaz, which is he will establish quickly. Him establishing quickly leaves what? The work of the right hand separates you to life, which allows the fruit to be secured in the house of the son of the living Elohim. When you overcome, and he said these pillars, the whole world is set on, and this is taking us back to the poor going in the dust and him lifting you out of the dunghill. And all of these things are going back to what we looked at yesterday in 1 Samuel chapter 10. Show them the manner of the kingdom and put it in a book. Show them the judgments of the kingdom and put it in a book. And the judgment of the kingdom is for you to be of a poor and contrite and humble spirit, so he can revive you or give you life, or so the right hand can separate you to this life. But it's all going to come back to one thing, to being meek and lowly in heart. We'll finish in Matthew chapter 18 and verse 1 just for the kick up. And at the same time, the disciples came unto Yahusha, saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of shamayim? And Yahusha called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, truly I say unto you, except you be converted and become as little children, you shall not enter into the kingdom of shamayim. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is the greatest in the kingdom of shamayim. So hallelujah for Yahusha and the word. So what we get from this statement that he made, that if you want to be considered great in the kingdom, matter of fact, let me ask you a question. In the book of Luke, what did it say Yahusha was? What was one of the adjectives that he used to describe him of what he would become? Like in Luke, when the angel Gabriel is talking to Mary, and he's telling her things about what her son is going to be. He said some things, and he also used an adjective to describe what her son would become.
He pretty much recapped what it was in Isaiah.
No, this wasn't necessarily in Isaiah. What he told her is that he shall be called great and the son of the highest. What allowed Yahusha to be called great and the son of the highest? That he humbled. Let's look at that real fast so y'all can see what I'm talking about in Luke chapter 1. Yeah, I know it. I told you that too. Luke 1 and what? 32? Well, Luke 1 and 31? And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb, and shalt bring forth a son, and shalt call his name Yahusha. And he shall be called great, and he shall be called the son of the highest. And Yahuwah Elohim shall give unto him the throne of his father David. And then we just read in 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 8 that he said he would inherit what? The throne of esteem. But notice that he said he'll be called great. He also told you in John that greater works than these you'll do if you believe on him. He just said who will be called greatest in the kingdom of shamayim, but he that humbled himself as a little child. This man humbled himself under the authority of his father, humbled himself unto death. He learned obedience by the things that he learned. He learned obedience by the things that he suffered, even though he were a son. Therefore, he showed you by his own works that he humbled himself as a little child so he could enter into his kingdom, because Ecclesiastes 4 and 14 says he came out of his prison to reign, and everyone in his kingdom is born poor. Get that real quick, Ecclesiastes 4 and 14. You can study it more on your own time. What's up, Henry? Yeah? You ate? Okay. Oh, if y'all need your hands washed, y'all need to go that way.
He say, for out of the prison he cometh to reign, whereas also he that is born in his kingdom.
He that is born in his kingdom becomes poor. Let's pull that word for poor up real quick. I'm going a tad bit longer, but screw it. Let me get it.
That's too black people.
And that's another word for poor. Somebody who is in want or in hunger. We got three characters for that. For it's spelled R-U-W-S-H. So what three characters will we use? This should be very easy. That's clear. You skipping the ooh. You got the ooh in the middle. And what's the other one you going to have? Sean. So we're not going to use consume. You got to be joined together. What are you joined together to? To the tent or the peg. Or the tent peg. Or to the sacrifice of the head. Because remember, except you be born again, you will not enter into the kingdom of shamayim. This is what he said. Everyone that entered into his kingdom had to be born poor. Ain't that what it said? So it said if you hunger, then that take you back to Deuteronomy chapter 8, that I suffered thee to hunger to see what was in your heart, whether you would keep my commandments or not. And then that takes you back to Matthew chapter 5. He that hunger and thirst after righteousness will be filled. Because when you fasting, what are you doing? You're afflicting yourself. And when you're afflicting yourself before Yahuwah, what are you doing? Huh? You're showing humility, but also when you fasting, what else should you be doing? I should have phrased it like that. Praying. And if you praying, then what are you doing?
You have your voice to be heard on high.
But and that means you seeking something from Yahuwah for him to grant that request for your voice to be heard on high. And what did Yahushua get ready to do? He humbled himself, and it said he was heard, and that he what? Feared. And this is how blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for they will inherit the kingdom of Elohim. So we'll do a little extra, but it's all good.